Everybody get that done? So I would say this, and now, so if you, I know that again, you guys have coached lots of clients. Like a lot of you guys have been, coaches for a very, very long time, dealt with all sorts of, different businesses and whatnot. And I would just ask you this, like, what's the number one thing that you've learned over your years as a business coach? What's the number one thing that you've learned? In fact, does anybody want to share it with me? Something that's really, really powerful? Trevor.
Clients don't want to do the work.
Yeah. Damn, dude, you nailed it. The rest of the presentation's over. Yeah, well done, Trevor. I agree. Ronson.
Biggest thing for me has been internal, and it's that I hide behind this almost prideful facade of this thing that a lot of us call perfectionism. It's BS.
Yeah.
It's fear of failure. I'm just a scared little boy is what it comes down to. But I call it perfectionism, and I make it seem like, oh, I'm just detail oriented. No, I'm just afraid of failing.
Yeah.
And I just need to take action.
Well, so since you've been coaching businesses, this is the number one thing. Like, that's the revelation.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, just in all of it.
No, I love it. That's very good. It's very interesting that you brought it back to personal.
Prospects don't wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, I want to coach.
Yeah.
They want problem solved, and they want results.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
That's the mindset.
So there's no point. So ripping around saying I'm a coach, you're.
Results.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, exactly. Okay. So look, look, beautiful points, right? And again, so if you were to ask me what I think, this 5-step formula that we've got here, guys, small changes matter. This is it. You give somebody like a 2% increase in multiple areas of their business, and my example here that you guys have all seen probably 1,000 times, you got a 10% increase, you nearly double their profits. A 50% increase, you take them from 62,000 to $500,000. I have helped clients do exactly this, guys. I've taken them from those types of numbers on the left, 62 grand, and taken them to $500,000. It did not happen in 6 months. It did not happen in 12 months. I mean, this was a process, but I mean, this stuff happens. So I would say, like what I'd be thinking about, or okay, a plane takes off in LA, okay, and it's on its way to New York, but it's off by 1 degree. What happens? Where does it land? Like you end up in Europe, right? Like you're not landing in like a suburb. You're not like a couple cities down. You're not like on the other side of the state. I mean, you're in another continent, right? 1 degree. Small changes matter, okay? So when you assist somebody in small incremental changes around their lead generation, small incremental changes around their conversions, number of transactions, and Adrian and I, we've got some stuff that we're sort of gonna let out of the bag a little bit while we're here, but we've just developed some software. It's now with the developers. They're going, but it's just, we believe it's gonna change things for small business owners big time. As a result, obviously, it'll be incredible for you guys. But anyways, and it's all built around that. And so instead of 5 areas, we've broken it down into 24. It's 23, but we added one, so it's like 24. And like we've broken this down, we've gone like, let me give you an example. So we go like a 2% increase in like 24 areas. Could you imagine the compound effect, right? Let's just say hypothetically that provides a company a $200,000 improvement, which that's what it comes to, often with not like, we're talking like a $1.5, $2 million company, right? So a 2% increase all the way down, you've got like an extra 200 grand. Well, if you take 2% and then you make it 3%, let's just say it's a spreadsheet, well, what happens? Is that a 1% increase? It's a 50% increase. Right, a 50% increase. So you went from, so what did I say, 200 grand. So now you've got a $300,000 increase in their profits by going from 2 to 3%. So again, and that, for me, that's my biggest. So when you're working with a client, you improve them 2%, and then you say, no, look, let's push a little harder, and you get to like 3, which is so difficult to go from 2 to 3%. Boom, that, when compounded over multiple areas of their business, that can be a 50% increase. Well, it is a 50% increase. I believe that to be, unbelievable. I say that in that when you're working with these clients and you're saving lives, I mean, this is the way, it's not about going in, and this is the mistake that I used to make when I was young, when I was getting going, is I was trying to like reinvent the wheel. I was trying to do like crazy stuff, you know what I mean? Like I was never happy with these small incremental changes. I'm like, look, that's lame. That's for the other guy, man. That's the competition. This is what we're gonna do. When you make a major change, guess what? They need more staff. They need to redo their marketing. They got to teach their salespeople how to sell something different, right? You make it really complicated. Whereas when you make it nice and simple and, just adjusting a sales script, coming up with a downsell, coming up with an upsell, again, you take a profit margin. Let's say the average business has a 20% profit margin, okay? Well, you're going to help them get Like you're going to give them they're going to go from 20 to 30%. Again, is that a 10% increase? No, it's a 50% increase. Again, so you go to 100 to 150 grand. It's just, my opinion, it's just insane. And when you see the software and you see the way we just sort of take these numbers and extrapolate them out in multiple different areas, it's gobsmacking, really. So anywho, so I would, that's mine. And again, but this isn't about me, it's about what you guys have learned. But I would encourage you to think about that. Like, what is the number one thing that you've learned? And then how can you go about taking it to clients, and how can you build a better belief system, a better story, and then get into a better state as a result of that? So when you go work with somebody that, you take them to a whole nother level. All right. So what I've done is I've broken this presentation into 3 areas. We've got attracting coaching clients, converting coaching clients, which is critical, and then retaining coaching clients. Okay. So attracting coaching clients. A successful person sees opportunity in every danger. An unsuccessful person sees danger in every opportunity. I think Ronson, in a nutshell, is pretty much what you said to us earlier, right? You sort of hide behind the perfectionism, and you're like, no, that's just me not getting started, right? Well, fear, the first word on the next slide. Beautiful. So change your offer, change your life. Guys, if you're on our Facebook page, which most of you are, you would have seen me say this. Again, if you have a conversation with me over, and we're talking about coaching, you're probably going to hear those words come out of my mouth. I cannot begin to tell you how powerful, when you get that offer right, you nail it. And by the way, our elevator pitch, I do 45-minute turnarounds. I guarantee to find any small business owner $10,000 in 45 minutes without spending $1 on marketing or advertising. That's just an offer. Okay, and again, and by the way, I haven't memorized that so that I get it right. I've memorized it so that I can't get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't forget it. You could wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning in a deep sleep and say, elevator pitch, boom, and I would spit it out without a hesitation, without a drama. I encourage you, don't practice it until you get it right. I want you to practice it till you can't get it wrong. But anyways, change your offer, change your life. When you go to close the coaching client, the offer to get in the door is the 45-minute turnaround. Now all of a sudden, when it comes time to pitch, what's your offer? Okay, and I got to tell you, most business coaches, I'll put them on the spot and I say, look, what's your offer? What do you sell? And I get some kind of like a lot of times a bit of a discombobulated, well, it depends on this. And I'm like, nah. Boom. When I, 25 coaches working at one time, there was one price point, one program, one everything. Because I knew as soon as I added, 2, 3, the second, third, and fourth option, guess what? First of all, they'd always go to the cheaper one for whatever reason. That's human nature. But again, it just confused things. And a confused person says maybe, and a maybe in a coaching dynamic is a no, right? If they don't close the deal while you've got them on the phone or you've got them face to face, on average, they're just not calling you to say, you know what? Boom, let's do this thing. It's not what's happening. But it does happen. I don't want to say it doesn't. That's a sweeping generalization. But look, when I'm closing a coaching client, look, I'm getting that deal done there. And again, at the end of it, I'm asking for a credit card number. So fear, fear is just an energy. And Tony Robbins has a wicked story where he talks about, it doesn't say the name, but there's like a singer where she has anxiety attack, and she basically goes from like award-winning artist to being in a dark room, like not wanting to move and definitely not getting on stage. And he said, well, so tell me, like, what is it that happens? She says, Tony, I get to the stage and I get up forward and all of a sudden I get this anxiety and I get like I can feel it in my toes, and then it runs up to my knees and it goes towards my hips, and then it comes up and it just takes over me. And I don't know, and I just can't think, and I hear the roar of the crowd, and then I even get more nervous, and so we this sort of dynamic. Years later, he's sitting with Bruce Springsteen, and he's a huge Bruce Springsteen fan. So am I, by the way. I love the guy. Okay, so, and he says to him, Bruce, you've been doing this for so long, and you're, most accomplished artist possibly of all time at that particular time. Tell me, what does it feel like when you walk out on stage? Like, are you kind of just like blasé, like, hey man, let's do this thing? Or do you walk on stage and sort of crap your pants like, I would? And he says, you know what, Tony, it's weird. I get to the front of the stage, and I get this energy. And it starts in my feet, and it goes to my knees, and it goes from my knees to my hips, and it goes to my hips, there, and then it takes over, and I hear the roar of the crowd, and that gets me even more energized. You see, guys, fear is just an energy. It's the story that you're given, you're attaching to what's happening, right? So just adjust that. So when you're shitting your pants, like you're looking at the phone, like you guys probably heard me say this too, you hide behind your computer screen, stare at the phone, and experience pain, right? Well, you just got to turn that around where you stare at the phone, get your state right, get your story right, and the strategy will automatically come, and just stare at that phone going, I own you, right? I am going to make these phone calls. And why are you making the phone calls? Because you're saving lives, you're saving marriages, you're saving families, you're saving the identities of the fathers and the wives, or owning these companies and doing this stuff. All of a sudden, you'll pick up the phone. When you think about, I'm saving lives, trust me, a cold call suddenly isn't such a challenge, right? I'll appreciate that. So anyway, fear, which I love the fact that, Ronson, you brought that up earlier. Average coach You got to change this offer. Oh, yes, Chuck.
I'd like to add a couple of minutes.
Please do. Yes.
The biggest problem that I've seen in my 20-some-odd years of coaching and consulting is you're dealing with a client and/or a prospect. There's perception and there's reality. We know what the reality is. He's going to need X amount of increase. But his perception is that I only need this much or that much.
Yeah. Story. Yeah.
Well, but it's their reality.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agree.
Well, but so when you're dealing with their reality, what we define means nothing. We're dealing with what the client.
Yeah.
So if we talk about, this is where I think we need to be in X amount of years or months, and I can't imagine, like you talk to some people, your business should be a multi-million-dollar business. Well, right now it's $100,000 business. They can't imagine that. They have no idea what that feeling is like.
Yeah. And if you do sit down with somebody making $100,000 and you start talking millions, like that, and Adrian and I, we have this channel, like we talk about that all the time. Like when we're doing our marketing, we put marketing out there to say, look, we're going to make you 7 figures as a business coach. Our click-through rate on our online ads is just toileted. We need to talk in hundreds of thousands because that's what the average coach that's going to be coming into our network initially off of LinkedIn would be looking at, right? So it's just so anyway. Why did I say that? So when you sit with a business owner and you're talking about going from 100,000 to $1 million, it just blow you away. In fact, let me just I want to try a diagram. Like this is an example. In fact, what I would normally do is say, okay, guys, if we had small business owners, I'd say put up your hand. Who's at roughly $100,000? And 3/4 of the audience would go up. And okay, of those that just put up their hand at $100,000, who wants to get to $1 million? Okay, and how many of the hands, how many of the hands stay up? How many of them go up? All of them, right? Because that's what they want to do. Well, the problem is you miss out on all these experiences. So here's what happens. You've got this problem, and this is your $100,000 problem, okay? And let's say that the million is right here. And what they want to do is they want to do this. Well, the problem is that once you break through, remember we talked about this, when you get a problem and then you solve it, what happens? What can you with 100% certainty anticipate? That another problem, just a higher level problem is coming. And then you got to solve that one. Do you think you're realistically going to go from a problem of $100,000 to a problem of $1 million? It's not going to happen, right? But you could go from 100 to 150. And guess what? Oh, by the way, and then you sort of break through. And then here you're going to break through. And then you've got, again, these challenges, though, again, 250 to 500,000, you get a different set. And then you break through. And this is how you're going to get to $1 million. The business owners, so Chuck, I totally agree with you. When you go and you say, look, we can make you millions, yada, yada, yada. You literally break rapport, which is the worst thing you can do in a sale or a coaching relationship. And, you end up with a client who doesn't take the phone call the next week. Or that super pig-headed guy who's just not going to damn well do anything, right? Anyways, good point, though. Love it. Okay, so average coach walks in and says, I need coaching clients. Obviously, you don't use those words, but that's what's happening. We walk into the accountant and say, I got an idea. You send me coaching clients, and then I'm going to charge them, $1,000 a month. And then I'll give you 100 of the 1,000 if they pay me. And when they stop paying me, I'm going to stop paying you. And then we get surprised when they don't respond, right? I'm like, come on, sit down with the accountant, get inside his head and work out the challenge that he's got. And the challenge is that you work with these guys and you want them to go to another level, but then you try and sell your, let's call them advisory services, and you feel like the sales guy, and it just feels out of integrity with everything that you're about, right? So you got to sit down with the accountant and say, well, look, you know how your clients pay you X? Let's just say it's going to be $5,000 a month for your clients, and you'd like them to be paying $10,000. And by the way, when you take them from $5,000 to $10,000, the difference that you're going to make in their company is going to be monumental because you'll now be working with them on a quarterly basis. We say, look, I want to become your sales guy. So I'm going to work with your clients. You're going to don't send me 200 guys. Don't send me all of your clients. You don't know who I am. Send me 1 or 2. Back to, get real clear. I want you to send me 2 clients. I'm going to charge them $1,000 a month. This is what I'm going to do for them. I'm going to get very intimate with their business, but they will have to get intimate with their numbers. That means I'm going to make them sit down with you on a quarterly basis at a minimum. Okay, that means that your fees are going to go from $5,000, maybe not quite to 10, but they're going to go from 5 to 7,500 overnight and potentially go from 5 to 15 if the accountant's doing a good enough job. You see how all of a sudden that's a completely different offer? Right? So you got to sit down with them and you got to get inside, and Adrian's going to talk about this, like you get inside that guy's head and you start talking in that language, magically good things happen. It's just an offer, guys, right? So, but going and notwithstanding sitting down with a client and saying, look, basically, do you want to do business with me? And then not having a really clear representation of what it is that you're going to do and they're going to do and what the numbers are going to look like before you sit down with them. Again, not necessarily going to get it done. So we got to get significantly better at that. Buying coaching clients, a concept I want to introduce you to. This I think it's groundbreaking. Okay, so buying coaching clients. Let's assume everybody in the audience here has $5 in their wallet. Agree with that? I send you to go get bread. Okay, and let's assume that there's a 7-Eleven within a 2-minute walk. Within 10 minutes, could you all be back here with a loaf of bread? Every single one of you. Why? Because you had money and then you exchange it and then you got something in return. Boom. Buying coaching clients. What happens if you went into the accounting firm and you said, look, I want, with the pitch like what I said a minute ago, right? And you say, look, I want you to send me 2 clients. Don't send me 200. I don't deserve them. Don't send me 20. Don't put your reputation on the line. Send me 2 clients. Good clients, though. Don't waste my time, right? And I'm a high-level professional, so we can both agree. I won't waste your time. You won't waste mine. So I want to pay you $1,000 hypothetically per client. Okay? Well, guess what? I want to pay you the $1,000 today, and I've got my checkbook here. What do you think? On your word that you're going to send them, and you don't need to send them today. Go away, talk to your wife, talk to your partners, have a look at your books, and then decide who you're going to send me. But I want to pay you $1,000, but I'd like to pay today. Boom. You see how all of a sudden state, story, strategy, like your strategy's obviously changed, but see the way your story inside your head, and then notwithstanding, he's sitting there going, holy cow, this guy's for real, right? This is this is going to happen. Do you think that might get your conversions up a little bit? And now what about the girls at the chamber? Okay, I've had a lot of success with chambers. I know they can be very, very frustrating, trust me. But I go to the salespeople. I don't go to the chairman of the board. I don't need to go to your local chamber to know that the chairman of the board is also a business coach. Hey, don't go to him, right? Because you're taking business away from him. I go to the sales guys, and how much do you think the sales guys at the Chamber of Commerce earn per year? It's not overly exciting, right? Can we agree on like 25 grand, 30 grand? Okay, well, write them a check for $1,000 the same way that I just described with the accountant. And again, stay in integrity, and I'm not talking about, you don't need to do, these aren't like dirty tricks behind the scenes. I mean, you're like, look, these guys are coming to you. Nobody joins the chamber. Nobody joins a networking group. They're trying to buy business. They're trying to grow their businesses. Well, guess what you do for a living? Exactly that, right? So sit down with the girls at the chamber, show them your website, show them your 5 steps, show them what a small incremental change in these 5 areas can do. Show them a script. Say, look, if I come to a presentation here, I can literally show you a word-for-word script of what I'll say. So I tell you what, so this is the deal. Like again, I want you to send me 2 clients. I will change their life. That's going to be the undertaking, nothing short, nothing less. Everybody I work with will have a money-back guarantee, and I just want you to send me 2 folks. And by the way, the first one, guess what? I would like to write you a check today, $1,000 made out to you, if you feel comfortable with this. And if you don't agree to it. But if you do, let's go for it. But understand that the people that I'm going to be going to, I mean, this is going to be like, I am going to change their life. Understand that. And by the way, if I don't, I'm going to have a money-back guarantee that they can always call me on. You see how all of a sudden that could change things? So buying coaching clients, I could go a little bit, I don't have time to go through it as well as I want, but you see how that's possibly a slightly different mindset when you're walking in? The same way you could go buy bread, you could do this. Boom, and all of a sudden, and by the way, you got to write a $1,000 check, I get it. And by the way, $500. I filled up an event, some of you would have heard this in Seattle, 4 days, 60, I don't know quite what I believe 60, 50. I know I had like over 15 people more than we had chairs, and we're like shimmying in chairs at the last second. I had a buddy who organized the event in Seattle. Things didn't go as well as planned, about to pull the pin at the last minute. I don't have that AAA personality, by the way, that Doug, I don't, unfortunately. But again, I'm like, I'm not canceling crap, right? I got my name on this thing. I'll work it out. I just picked up the phone. I went to Google. I researched, all the folks. I got on the phone. I cold called them myself. I phoned them and I gave them, and I phoned with an outcome, you know what I mean? And I phoned with a level of intensity, and I phoned in a state that, dude, I'm doing you the favor here. You're going to send me some folks. And what I did is I said, look, well, I'll tell you what I did. I had, I believe it was 40 people that we needed to fill the room. So I pitched, and we had 5. But I said a little white lie. I apologize. But I said, I've got 30 people booked. I told, all my literature says that it's sold out, and that means 40. So I need 10 people because I just don't operate, I operate in integrity, and that just has to happen. So I need to get 40 people. I'm going to pay one person, and one person only, scarcity, $1,000 to get 10 people for me. Would that be you, or do you know somebody who might be willing or able? Boom, guess what? Da-da-da. Ended up, again, we went from 5 to 60 people in like record time, And basically, because you see, I phoned them, hard pitch, buying coaching clients. I just said, look, put 10 bums on seats. They got to show up, and I'll pay you $1,000. But I'm only paying one person, scarcity. My outcome was incredibly clear. Boom, went from 5 to 60 record time. It's exactly the same concept, guys. It's a totally different, in my opinion, it's a very different approach. But the same way I go buy bread, I went and found prospective coaching clients. Rent from an accountant. You know, if you're going to pay rent, I know a lot of us like to work in our home offices. I do personally as well. But some people don't like the house, and notwithstanding, you want to get like a really cool group of leads, right? Doug Hoffman, he owns a really successful accounting firm. You know, how many accountants do you have, Doug? 30? Like, do you think if you walk past 30 accountants every day and you were handing out Starbucks and type cards, and going and buying these guys, like hanging out with them and genuinely building a relationship with them, do you think you might be able to get yourself 10, 15, 20 coaching clients? The answer is absolutely. So, and then there's an advertising company and all sorts of folks. Could be really good. I take that and I put it into the sort of buying coaching clients type of category. Jay Abraham, back in the day, he charges $2,000 an hour. So he says, look, I'll buy you $500 of my time. Okay, well, guess what happens? As soon as you start, he turns the hourglass over and it's 15 minutes. And it's minute 16, if you want to keep going, you're getting done for the $2,000 an hour, right? But you pay $1,500 instead of $5. But think about his offer. Think about his marketing. Do you think when Jay Abraham's going to buy you $500 of his time, do you think he got a few extra prospects on the phone versus saying, look, I'm going to charge you $1,500 an hour? Totally different offer. Totally different. Anybody? Phil Knight. Do you guys know who that is? Nike. Yeah. Do you guys? What's the number one decision of all time? Anybody tell me what it is? What is it?
Just do it.
What is it? Sorry. What's his number one decision of all time? I think I heard it somewhere. It's a really good. Michael Jordan. Boom. Sponsored Michael Jordan. Did Michael Jordan pay Nike or did Nike pay him?
Nike paid him.
Boom. And like a lot, like out of control. And even as a young, at the end of the day, when he sponsored Michael Jordan, like there's a million Michael Jordans out there that didn't go on to be Michael Jordan, right? So yeah, exactly. Okay. So, but the number one decision of all time, he sponsored him. My question for you is, who could you go sponsor, right? Tom Brady. You in a doggy daycare? Tom Brady's got a dog, right? Go send a limo in to pick up the dog and bring the dog in when Tom Brady goes away and he's playing in the Super Bowl and what have you, right? Sponsor him, just because having Tom Brady's dog there and potentially getting a photo with him and his wife or what, you see how all of a sudden that could change things a little bit, the dynamic sponsorship, guys. It doesn't just work in basketball, in professional sports and whatnot. It can work for you guys. What's a client that if you took on every time you conveniently, do you guys have one of those clients that you intentionally just drop his name? Right? It happens all the time, right? Well, go find a couple more of those. But if you've already got them, just leverage it at a higher level. But if you don't have it, just go and sponsor them. I did this when I first got going with my coaching company, and I'm telling you guys, the results were just off the wall, more than I could have ever dreamed. Who could you sponsor to help take clients to a new level? 45-minute turnaround talk. Again, that's just the offer, guys, right? Again, it's an upfront offer, but it's a very different, from the person who's listening, it's a very different offer from I need coaching clients. I just put a couple of different examples. I live in Port Moody, how to build a 7-figure aged care facility in Port Moody. Like if aged care was your niche and then you lived in Port Moody, this could be a really clever little offer for people to download a report, come to your webinar, come to your seminar, come to your focus group, come to your lunch and learn, what have you. Promote your offers, not your company name. This one gets screwed up all the time. I see it not to forget the coaching industry. I just see this from one side of the planet to the other. Nobody gives a stiff, nobody cares about the name of your company, flat out. They care about the value that you're bringing to them. So product, great example is we had a lot of football fans, no doubt, in here, right? You're staring at one, love the NFL. Do they promote, the NFL, it doesn't even, the logo is in the bottom right-hand corner and it kind of just has to be there, so they put it there. They're promoting Tom Brady. They're promoting Johnny Football. They're promoting the new young stud, right? Those are your products, programs, events. Guys, promote those. Come up with really clever, cool names and start promoting them. Like naming my website, Profit Before You Pay, right? Our international trademark, no results, no fee. It says nothing, profit before you pay. That's not me. That has nothing to do with me. In our company, that's got everything to do with the person reading, profit before you pay, right? So again, but that's what you want to be promoting. You want to come up with products, programs, and events, come up with really cool names, and boom. So guys, Craig, baby, some thinking music for me, bud. Guys, I want you to think of 3 offers right now, and I want you to jot them down, and I want you to commit in your mind and ultimately in your body that is like when you get home, you're going to follow through. And by the way, you might screw it up royally and it might not work at all, but guess what? Because you made a decision and you get the wheels turning, that opportunity, that phone call, that cold call, that offer will probably turn into a really substantial, cool opportunity for you. Okay? So guys, just really quickly, I want you to scoot down 3 offers. I see you guys taking photos of the slides, which is totally cool, but I will provide them to you if you want them, so no stress.